Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So before I start today's reading, I have just a little introduction. This is the story of something that happened on January 1st, 1886. So we may be tempted to think, oh, this is a wonderful story about what happened to those people then, and how fortunate and how wonderful they were to be in the Kashipur Garden House gardens when Sri Ramakrishna came down at 3 o'clock and this story unfolded. But as Swami Vivekananda so forcefully reminds us in a number of places, but in most particular in his letter to a friend, there is no time and space in the soul. We are all together at one point. We are all together at one point. Always have, he doesn't say this, but I'm going to add it, always have been, are now, and always will be. This is of course, the meaning of omnipresence. Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and all of their associates and all of the saints and sages of all time are always with us. So salutations again and again to Sri Ramakrishna, who is of the form of all gods and goddesses for all time, because what he bestowed on Kalpataru Day, as it is so called, what he bestowed on that day to those people within his immediate reach on that day is also available to us. Sri Ramakrishna did not even invite those people who were there on January 1st, 1886. They were simply in relationship with him. And so when the auspicious moment arose, as he said, I shall make the whole thing public. And so he did. And so it is as available to us now, who are in relationship with the Master, as it was to those people then. The secret is relationship. It's said that the secret of being in the right time, in the right place, is to be many places at many times. And so if we, and there is an invitation from the Master to be in relationship with him, no compulsion, but an invitation. And so the promise is, and it's a promise that I've seen fulfilled in the lives of many over the nearly 50 years that I've been involved in this, that at the right time and the right place, the Master's touch will come. And so with that, again, salutations again and again to Sri Ramakrishna, who is of the form of all gods and goddesses and all auspiciousness, always has been, is now, and always will be. So now we're very fortunate to have Niranjana offer us this song. She'll introduce it and tell you what the song means and then sing it for us.
Namaste everyone. Today I'm going to sing a song which conceptualizes Sri Ramakrishna's statement to Swami Vivekananda. He who was Rama and Krishna is now in this body, Ramakrishna. The song is divided into three parts, each one describing Sri Krishna, Sri Rama, and Sri Ramakrishna in the same order. So
Please be a little closer to the microphone, Niranjana, just so we'll hear you the better.
Okay, sure. It should be better now. I hope so.
Yes.
Okay. The first couplet describes the divine qualities of Sri Krishna as one who is always in an ocean of bliss. They indicate Sri Krishna as the beloved of Saint Meera and one who is the consort of Sri Radha. The second couplet illustrates the divine qualities of Sri Ramachandra as one who is infinitely compassionate and graceful towards his devotees. They also refer to him as the consort of goddess Sita and the shining prince of the Raghu clan dynasty. The last couplet tells about Sri Ramakrishna as the establisher and protector of Dharma and one who is verily the embodiment of Dharma. It also praises Sri Ramakrishna as one who is always in a state of peace and bliss. Sri Ramakrishna is also indicated here as the lover of goddess Kali, consort of Sri Sharada Devi, and by his name which was given to him by his parents, Gadadhar. I'm just sharing my screen which has the song. I hope it is visible to everyone. Sundar is also singing along with me, so I just wanted to tell that. आनंद सागरा मुरलीधरा आनंद सागरा मुरलीधरा मीरा प्रभु राधे श्याम वेणुगोपाला मीरा प्रभु राधे श्याम वेणुगोपाला नंद यशोदा आनंद किशोरा नंद यशोदा आनंद किशोरा जय जय गोकुल बाला श्री राज गोपाला जय जय गोकुल बाला श्री राज गोपाला कौसल्या सुप्रजा रामचंद्रा कौसल्या सुप्रजा रामचंद्रा सीता मनोहरा राघवेन्द्रा सीता मनोहरा राघवेन्द्रा दीन दयालो परिपूर्ण कृपालो दीन दयालो परिपूर्ण कृपालो जय जय भक्त वत्सला श्री रघुकुल तिलका जय जय भक्त वत्सला श्री रघुकुल तिलका आनंददायका परमहंसा आनंददायका परमहंसा Kali Priya Gadadara Ramakrishna. Kali Priya Gadadara Ramakrishna. Dharma Rakshaka, Dharma Swarupa, Dharma Rakshaka, Dharma Swarupa, Sharada Manohara Shantidayaka, Sharada Manohara Shantidayaka. Ananda Sagara Muralidhara, Ananda Sagara Muralidhara, Kausalya Supraja Ramachandra, Kausalya Supraja Ramachandra, Anandadayaka Paramahamsa, Anandadayaka Paramahamsa, Anandadayaka Paramahamsa, Anandadayaka Paramahamsa, Anandadayaka Paramahamsa.
Thank you, dears. Thank you so very much for that lovely and very appropriate song.
Thank you, brother.
Jenny, I'm doing the Kalpataru Day Observance. Please join us. I'll call you later. So, January 1st, 1886, known as Kalpataru Day, the day of Sri Ramakrishna's self-revelation. I shall make the whole thing public before I go, the master had said some time before. He said that to the mother, and he said it to Swami Vivekananda, perhaps to others, but it's recorded that he said it to the mother and to Swami Vivekananda. On January 1st, 1886, of course, I'm going to interrupt here and say we all know that the master had been suffering for some time, perhaps as much as 2 years, from throat cancer. And by this time, of course, it had metastasized, and he was just a shell of his former vibrant self, still very vibrant spiritually, but his physical body was deteriorating. But on January 1st, 1886, he felt a bit better and came down to the garden for a little stroll. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some 30 lay disciples were in the hall or sitting about under the trees. Now notice that this involves Sri Ramakrishna's householder disciples, his lay disciples. This Kalpataru Day observance, as we'll hear later from Swami Sridharananda, was meant for them and therefore for us. Some 30 lay disciples were in the hall or sitting about under the trees. Sri Ramakrishna said to Girish Ghosh, "Well, Girish, what have you seen in me that you proclaim me before everybody as an incarnation of God?" Girish was not the man to be taken by surprise. He knelt before the master and said with folded hands, "What can an insignificant person like myself say about the one whose glory even sages like Vyasa and Valmiki could not accurately measure? What can an insignificant person like myself say about the one whose glory even sages like Vyasa, who of course wrote about Sri Krishna, and Valmiki, who was one of the most well-known sage who wrote about Sri Ramachandra. So what can an insignificant person like myself say about the one whose glory even sages like Vyasa and Valmiki could not adequately measure? The master was profoundly moved. He said, "What more shall I say? I bless you all. Be illumined." What more shall I say? I bless you all. Be illumined. This was the act of making it public. He fell into a spiritual mood. Hearing those words, the devotees, one and all, became overwhelmed with emotion. They rushed to him and fell at his feet. He touched them, each one, and each received an appropriate benediction. Each of them, at the touch of the Master, experienced ineffable bliss. Some laughed, some wept, some sat down to meditate, some began to pray. Some saw light, some had visions of their chosen ideal, and some felt within their bodies the rush of spiritual power. Now I'm going to read two more descriptions of this event. Please don't think the repetition tedious. It's good for us to have this repetition so that it sinks in the deeper to us. Each description is somewhat different, of course, and helps us receive it more deeply. So this is from the introduction to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and it was written by Swami Nikhilananda. The words "be illumined," those words of profound blessing, untouched by the slightest tinge of selfishness, directly entered the devotees' hearts, where they raised high billows of bliss. They forgot time and space, forgot the disease of the Master, and forgot their previous determination not to touch him until he recovered, and had the immediate feeling that, sympathizing with their misery and heart overflowing with compassion, he had come down to them from heaven and called them affectionately to him for protection, like a mother sheltering her children against all ills. Which, if those of you who are familiar with the Chandi hymns will recognize those lines. That he, like a mother sheltering her children from all ills, had called them to him. And this is from Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, by Swami Sharadananda. Now, Swami Sharadananda was a truly remarkable Swami. He was not only a great soul in his own right and a great devotee in his own right, but he was a wonderful organizer and administrator and writer. He served as General Secretary of the Order. For those of you who don't know, in Indian terms, General Secretary is equivalent to Chief Executive Officer. Swami Brahmananda was president, but that's a spiritual position. Swami Saradananda served as General Secretary of the Order for many years. A heavy responsibility because the order was growing quickly at that time. And they were expanding into South India, into Varanasi, and so on. But he also found time, he determined that it was necessary to write a truly authoritative narrative of the Master's entire life. So he found time to meticulously research each incident of the Master's life. And in what is now called in journalism triangulation, he would not publish anything in this book that was not independently verified by 3 people. Now, this required a tremendous amount of effort on his part. So when we read this book, when we hear this book read, we can think this is a true narrative of the Master's life. There is no apocrypha, none of that inflation that is so easy to do around the saintly and the great teachers of the world. So this is directly from that section of The Great Master by Swami Sharadananda that involves what happened on January 1st, 1886. Since it was the New Year holiday, many devotees had started coming to the Kashipur Garden House shortly after midday to visit Sri Ramakrishna. They were waiting in groups engaged in conversation, either in the garden or inside the house. Ramakrishna was resting upstairs in his room. In the afternoon, around 3 p.m., he felt a little better and wanted to stroll for a while in the garden. So he came downstairs. As soon as the devotees saw him, they bowed down to him and followed him into the garden. When Ramakrishna reached the middle of the path, heading to the gate, he saw Girish Ghosh and a few other devotees sitting under a tree. When Girish and the group saw Ramakrishna approaching, they stood up in reverence, bowed down to him from there, and came toward him. Then, before anyone had said a word, Ramakrishna suddenly asked Girish, "Girish, what have you been saying?" "Oh, Girish, you have been saying many things about this." Ramakrishna's unique way of referring to himself. He rarely used egoistic words such as me, myself, or I. So, Girish, you have been saying many things about this, but what have you understood about me? Parenthetically is here. What have you understood about me that you are publicly saying these things? Divine incarnation and so on. Girish, kneeling down on the ground near Ramakrishna's feet, replied in a choked voice, with his hands folded. Notice the descriptive language now. This is Sharadananda describing what happened in a more personal way, because he knew it to be true. Girish, kneeling down on the ground near Ramakrishna's feet, replied in a choked voice, with his hands folded and face turned upward, "What more can I say of him whose greatness Vyasa and Valmiki could not find words to express?" Sri Ramakrishna was charmed at the fervent utterance. Sri Ramakrishna was charmed at the fervent utterance of Girish, and blessing all the devotees assembled through their representative Girish, said, "What more shall I say to you? May you all be blessed with the spiritual awakening." Hardly had he said those few words, he entered into samadhi, and for the devotees, those words of profound blessing, directly entered their hearts. They forgot time and space. They became eager to bow down to him, and with cries of victory to Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna, began saluting him one after another. As they were thus bowing down to him, something wonderful happened. Sri Ramakrishna now began touching each of the devotees in that divine mood. Sri Ramakrishna now began touching each of the devotees in that divine mood. Because of his touching them, their consciousness were lifted high. Their consciousnesses, because of his touching them, their consciousnesses were lifted high. They became ecstatic, and their joy knew no bounds. They felt as if Sri Ramakrishna would not hereafter keep concealed the fact of his divinity from anybody in the world. Some devotees described the incident of that day as the transformation by Sri Ramakrishna of himself into the Kalpataru. But actually he did much more. He made clear through his actions the face of his being a God-man. He made clear through his actions the fact of his being a God-man. Swami Sardananda described the experiences of 3 of the devotees in their own words, whom Sri Ramakrishna blessed in very special ways that day. Here's what one of the devotees said. As the result of it, the blessing, a great revolution took place in my mind. I saw the figure of the Master, Ramakrishna, lit up with a gracious smile in the sky, in the houses, trees, plants, men, and whatever else I looked at. That mental attitude and vision of mine continued for some days. Throughout my waking state, I became amazed and charmed with the holy vision of the Master in all things. It continued to be so wherever I went, to the office or elsewhere on any business. I could not attend to the work on hand, and it suffered. I then prayed to the Master again with fear, O Lord, I am not able to contain this mental state. Please ordain that it may come to an end. I now think, woe be to the human weakness and stupidity. Woe be to human weakness and stupidity. Why did I pray so? As soon as I prayed in that manner, the said vision and mental state came to an end one day. My firm conviction is that they were removed by the same extraordinary being from whom I had got them. But he preserved compassionately a partial capacity of the mind to recapture it. Swami Sardananda also made an interesting observation. That is, only a couple of Ramakrishna's disciples were present during this incident. In other words, only Ramakrishna's lay householder devotees received his blessings that day. This was perhaps because he had to specially bless his monastic disciples while imparting more rigorous spiritual training to them, who would be entrusted to spread his teachings worldwide. And indeed, that was the case. The Master not only gave special instruction, but he also gave illumination to each of those devotees that he referred to as his band of minstrels. those who would play his song for the world. And as I mentioned the other day, there is a wonderful collection of what this band of minstrels said in years after the master passed, when they were doing the work that he left them to do. It's called What the Disciples Said About It. You can find the book online easily, get a used copy for very little, or a new one from either the publishers in India or from Vedanta.com. It is a wonderful collection gathered together meticulously. Again, meticulously. She was such a devoted follower of Swami Prabhavananda. Her name was Edith Tipple, or as Swami Prabhavananda named her, Nalini. So what the disciples said about it. I highly recommend your having a copy of that book so that when you have a question about some aspect of spiritual life, you can look not only to the Master's words, not only to Mother's words, but to the disciples' words, because each of them was unique. And sometimes how they said it reaches us more deeply even than the way the Master said it, because of their alignment with us. For this here, there's a particular fondness for the way Swami Shivananda spoke about it. The name in among the devotees and the monastics for Swami Shivananda was Mahapurush Maharaj, great soul, great king. But you may find as you go through these, and it is such a wonderful collection. Say you want to know about desire. Say you want to know about attraction, aversion, renunciation, about bliss, about ecstasy. Each of those topics is covered. And everything that Nalini could find that any of the direct disciples said about it is contained in that book. It's really a treasure. Beautifully presented. So is there anyone else who would like to sing anything? Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment or ask a question? This is, of course, where we do this together. And it is a treasure for us to do this together.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I would like to sing a song.
Please do, dear. I was hoping you would offer.
If you could just give me one moment, I'll just pull it up.
Yeah, no problem at all. A few moments silence never goes amiss.
Okay. I'm going to sing Sri Ramakrishna Stotram by Swami Vivekananda.
Please explain a little about what it says in English, because you're probably going to sing it in Bengali or Sanskrit.
Yes. So I'll read the translation in English first before I sing.
Okay, please.
So the hymn was composed to Sri Ramakrishna by Swami Vivekananda in 1898, around the same time that he composed Khandana Bhava Bandhana and Om Rimritam. So this is the translation. He who was Rama, whose stream of love flowed with resistless might, even to the Chandala, the outcast. Oh, whoever was engaged in doing good to the world, though superhuman by nature, whose renown there is none to equal in the three worlds, Sita's beloved, whose body of knowledge, excuse me.
It's all right, dear. We're all moved.
Excuse me.
That's what Sri Swami Sharananda was alluding to when he said that Girish spoke in a choked voice. He could have said that he had tears streaming down his face also.
Whose body of knowledge supreme was covered by devotion sweet in the form of Sita. He who quelled the noise, terrible like that, at the time of destruction, arising from the battle of Kurukshetra, who destroyed the terrible yet natural night of ignorance of Arjuna, and who roared out the Gita, sweet and appeasing, that renowned soul is now born as Sri Ramakrishna. Hail, O Lord of men, victory unto you. I surrender myself to my Guru, the physician for the malady of samsara, relative existence, who is, as it were, a wave rising in the ocean of Shakti, power, who has shown various sports of love divine, and who is the great weapon to destroy the demon of doubt. Hail, O Lord of men, victory unto you. I surrender myself to my Guru, the man God, the physician for the malady of this samsara, whose mind ever dwelt on the non-dualistic truth, whose personality was covered by the cloth of supreme devotion, who was ever active for the good of humanity, and whose actions were all superhuman. Hail, O Lord of men, victory unto you.
Thanks for that reading, dear.
Thank you. Achandala Pratihatareyo Yasya Prema Pravaho Lokatito Pyahana Jaho Loka Kalyana Margam Trailokyepya Pratima Mahimo Janaki Prana Bandhu Bhaktya Jnanam Vritavarabapuhu Sitaya Yogi Rama Stabdi Kritya Pralaya Kalitam Vahavotam Mahantam He गृहीत्वा रात्रि प्रकृति सहजा अंधता मिश्रा गीतां शान्तं मधुरमपि या सिंहनादं जगजा सोऽयं जात प्रतितपुरुषो रामकृष्ण स्विदानम् नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव शक्ति समुद्र समुत्तरंगं दर्शित प्रेम विजृंभित रंगं संशय राक्षसनाशमहास्त्रं यामि गुरुं शरणं भव वैद्यं यामि गुरुं शरणं भव वैद्यं नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव अद्वयतत्त्वसमाहितचित्तं प्रोज्वल भक्तिपदावृतवृत्तं कर्म कलेवरमद्भुतश्रेष्ठं यामि गुरुं शरणं भव वैद्यं यामि गुरुं शरणं भव वैद्यं नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव नरदेव देव जय जय नरदेव.
Thank you, Divya, for that clearly very heartfelt rendition of that song.
Thank you.
Anyone else who has anything they would like to say or sing or just comment?
First of all, I just want to wish everybody a happy new year. And thank you, Divya. That was just very touching and moving. I was wondering if you know of any source where we can, get the lyrics and meaning and maybe even learn the song, these songs.
Oh yes, I'll text it to everyone. It's actually on the Vedanta DC website with the whole translation and yes, wonderfully laid out. I'll text it to you, Swayamji.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Divya?
Nira, you wanted to say something to Divya?
Yes. Divya, would you please text it to everybody? So
Oh yes.
She just did. It's in the chat section.
Oh, in the chat section? Okay.
It's in the chat section. I just saw it appear.
Okay.
Yes. Do you see it, Niraji?
Let me check it. Chat.
We will check.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I see the link. Thank you. Yes. How can we save the link? Like
it is saved.
Just copy it. Just copy it and paste it into a Word document.
Yeah, it is saved. When we go back.
Copy.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone?
He said copy.
Yes, Brother Shankara.
Yes.
Just a brief comment. Happy New Year to everyone, and I want to share an experience that is kind of To me, it's unique, but some of you may have already felt. This morning, New Year's morning, the first thought was Thakur, as if some energy was flowing through me very swiftly, and I felt as if every pore of me, as if Thakur knew more than I do myself. My understanding, my thoughts, my feelings, in a flash, it just appeared to me as if I have someone with me who knows me more than I do. So if someone knows me more than I do, there's nothing much that I need to fear. I have someone who's protecting me. Just want to share that feeling early morning. Thank you.
Without question thou shelterest us, and the world's great sea in its wrath seems shrunk to the puddle that fills a hoofprint in the clay. Speech cannot hold thee nor mind, yet without thee we think not nor speak. So Vivekananda wrote about.
And now with that in background, I do want to ask you a question, that
Yes.
if I have that kind of feeling inside, with Thakur protecting me and Thakur being with me, in spite of it, every once in a while, in handling the worldly affairs, I get flustered very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dichotomy then.
It's not really a dichotomy. As happened when Lord Vashishta, the teacher of Rama's spiritual teacher, lost his sons. He was weeping. And Lakshmana, who was kind of doctrinaire in his thinking, said, well, brother, speaking to Rama, he said, brother, here's this Lakshmana, this great sage who speaks the truth of Advaita, that this is all nothing more than a vibration of consciousness in a stage show. Here he is weeping about his sons. What's up with that? And Sri Ramachandra said, oh, brother, you must understand. He who has knowledge also has ignorance. And if you wish to understand this better, Vijay, read the last two chapters. Read it all if you can find the time and inclination, but especially read the last two chapters of Adi Shankaracharya's The Crest Jewel of Discrimination, Viveka Chudamani. He explains in detail how even the illumined are in the presence of these moments. It's nothing to be amazed at. And as the Christ said to us in his shortest and very poignant teaching, be passers-by. When this happens to you, it happens. Take refuge as best you can, but don't hold on to it. Don't think about it. It happened. The moments came and went, and you did what you did, right or wrong. Right or wrong only in the sense of appropriate or inappropriate to those moments. But then it's done. As Swami Swahananda used to say, what is done is done. Go forward. And for us to go forward means to be passers-by. Don't cling to, don't worry about. Those are just more distractions. Brooding about, worrying about those moments.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. I really thank you.
Hmm.
And when it happens, Usually I try to remind myself from Bhagavad Gita the word sthane, meaning what is, everything is okay, everything will be fine.
How else can it be if we take the words omnipresent, omniscient, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent seriously? How can there be anything in any fundamental true sense? How can there be anything wrong? The saints say it over and over again. Again, I recommend to all of us that book, Love Poems from God, because that is the testimony of 12 saints from across the traditions, across the millennia, telling us of what it is to be one with the divine and how there cannot be, in any real sense, anything wrong.
So kind of you, so kind of you, Brother Shankar, to
But it doesn't mean, like Vashishta, that we won't have those moments when we feel like there's something wrong. So we must be passersby. It
and the
happens.
most important and difficult thing at that time is to pull oneself out of it in the moment. Afterwards, I'm able to do it very easily. But in the moment, it's as if
In the moment, just do what seems right and necessary. Just do what seems appropriate. We are that infinite power. We are that infinite glory. If we stand out of our way, if we don't fret about it, something wonderful happens. So even in the moment, rather than thinking about pulling yourself out of it, just do what seems appropriate. You are infinitely creative. You are infinitely powerful.
and what helps me sometimes is I remember your words, what deserves my attention at this time.
Yes, that's
When I,
always a good question to ask
when I
yourself.
repeat your words to myself, that helps me pull out of the situation.
Good. Excellent. Always remember that these are, as Swami Prabhavananda said, who spoke. Anything else from anyone? This is wonderful.
Brother
Yes.
Shankara, talking about love poems from God,
Yes.
I was reading a few of Catherine of Siena,
Yes.
and there were so many reassuring ones. So I didn't know which one, but this one just came on, on a quick search. If someone cried in heaven, someone cried in heaven, that's the title of the poem.
Mhm.
If you cried in heaven, everyone would laugh, for they would know you were just kidding.
Yes. Now, I remind everyone who hasn't this book at hand that this is the testimony of a recognized saint, Saint Catherine of Siena. So could you read that again, please, just with that in mind? This is someone who really knew whereof she spoke. She was one with the divine presence.
If someone cried in heaven, if you cried in heaven, everyone would laugh, for they would know you were just kidding.
Oh, I see. Brother Shankara,
Yes,
uh,
dear.
where could we get this book? Is there a PDF that we could get?
No. It's not a. It's a relatively newer book, so it's not for free. But you can get used copies from Amazon.com
Okay.
for very reasonable amounts of money.
Okay.
And you can get if you use Kindle, you can get a Kindle edition for very little money.
Yes, we'll get it from Amazon. Yes.
It's not a Ramakrishna Order publication. It's published by Penguin. Compass Books.
Yes.
Anything else from anyone?
There's another quick one, if I may read.
Please.
The foundation of God. It's also St. Catherine. The foundation of God. My perfect Lord sang, less likely is God to condemn my hand's action than condemn any soul. Less likely is God to condemn my hand's action than condemn any soul. How could that be possible? My heart thought. And the Christ, knowing all minds, replied, forgiveness is the foundation of God's being. Forgiveness is the foundation of God's being.
There we are, you see. This is why fearlessness. But we can only come to really understand this through our own spiritual practice. Through our own spiritual practice, we come to this relationship with the divine. This is what will be spoken about in the 2 Sundays after the Mother's Puja, which is this coming Sunday. First, the relationship of the great teachers to the divine, and the title of that is Great Inconceivable Penances. And then on the following Sunday, the topic will be regarding our own relationship with the divine. Itty bitty austerities. Itty bitty austerities. It's about relationship. That's how we overcome our ignorance. Once we truly know and love a friend, there's no more question about that friend. There's just complete love, complete trust. This is overwhelmingly more so about the divine as whatever mood we're in, as servant, as child, as friend. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, I have something from Norman Vincent Peale.
Ah, yes.
He's a wonderful person. I read a quote every day, 365 days.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I wanted to read the quote. This morning, I thought this would be great for our group. It says, here is a New Year's thought to ensure a great day every day beginning now. St. Paul says, walk in newness of life. Romans 6:4. What does that mean? It simply means to get rid of all these old barnacles that have encrusted you for so long. Resentments, dishonesties, rationalizations, fears, weaknesses, and so on. These must all go so that you may walk in newness of life. When you are new, you feel like walking head up, standing tall, for you have fresh new power. That God may reactivate your life so that you may walk in newness of life. Why not just be done with some things? Get so tired of the world, so fed up with it, that you're done with it. You have been full of fear, be done with being full of fear. If you have been full of error and defeat, be done with it. Say, by God's grace, I am done with it, and take charge of yourself like never before. And for certain, it will be a happy new year for you. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to all of you.
Well, Haima, thank you for that. So the question may naturally arise in our minds, how to do what Norman Vincent Peale, this great author, this great philosopher, how to do that, how to get rid of these things. The Master said for this time, for this age, the best way is to chant the name of the Lord and his glories, to make japam and to sing as some have sung these songs. And here's what another great teacher of the Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here's the beginning of his prayer. Notice that this is unqualified. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. And that's how you get rid of all those things that Norman Vincent Peale listed, because they are our karmas and our samskaras. And what does it mean, chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly? It means you begin to do it, and then you increase it and increase it and increase it until it becomes a habit of mind. It's like anything else. You start with a single step, and then you tread the path, and you tread it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until you've established that pathway in your mind. There's a quote from Henry David Thoreau about that in one of the talks. We don't make a pathway through the forest by walking it just once. We walk it again and again and again until the pathway is established. The same is true of the mind. And are you alone in this endeavor? No. Here's another song. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, take my hand. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may stray. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, draw me near. O Lord, draw me near. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, draw me near. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, fill this heart. 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 Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, draw me near. O Lord, fill this heart. O Lord, fill this heart. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. Oh, Amen. So we're not alone. That song arises directly out of Sri Ramakrishna's admonition in the gospel. If you take God's hand, you may let it go at just the wrong moment and stumble and fall. If you offer your hand and ask God to take it, the Lord will never let you go, even when the tendency is to stumble, to stray, to fall. Ask, and ye shall receive. Knock, and it shall be opened unto. If you ask your Father for bread, will he give you a stone? If you ask your Father for fish, will he give you a serpent? Ask, and ye shall receive. And there's no limit to what we can receive, as we've heard today in these Kalpataru readings. There's no limit, including illumination. No way to hurry, no way to make it happen. The right time. But as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, start by chanting the name of the Lord. The mirror of the heart will be wiped clean, and the mighty forest fire raging furiously within will be quenched. What that says is that sattva will be emphasized in your life and point the way to the divine, and rajas and tamas, which are the components of that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, their influence will be quenched. Quenched. What a word. That's the translation of Swami Prabhavananda and Christopher Isherwood from the Sanskrit. Quenched. When a fire is quenched, that means there's no more glowing coal. Nothing to restart the fire. This is the promise of the great ones. This, every one of them. Every one of them. And these saints that are in this book, Love Poems from God, who have become one with God. That's why they're called love poems from God, not love poems to God or love poems about God. They're love poems from God because these saints have become one with the divine. And that reassurance is there, as Swayam read to us on every page. So we can listen or not. There's no compulsion. As Sri Ramakrishna said to the gentleman who came from Calcutta to ask him why they should not enjoy the world, he said, go enjoy the world. I have no objection. But when you are sick of it, return to me. I have the cure. And that's exactly what Swayam read to us from Catherine of Siena.
Brother Shankara,
Yes,
this session is extremely meaningful. Is it being recorded?
Yes, it will be here.
yes, it's being recorded.
Thank you so much.
It'll be on to fully answer Vijay's question within a day or two, a couple of days probably, since we're heading into Mother's Puja weekend. It'll probably be Monday or Tuesday. And this Kalpataru Day Observance will be up on our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
And the notes that were used for the reading will be along with it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And no doubt Cindy can also capture the link that Divya put on. And I think all of us now know about that book, Love Poems from God, which I cannot, I read it virtually every day, just as I do the gospel, simply because it is so full of joy, bliss, and reassurance. 12 saints from across thousands of years, different traditions, Sufis, Hindus, Catholics, others. Islam. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. We'll close with our regular chant for peace. Such a beautiful translation by Swami Yogeshananda. Let there be peace throughout outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Ramakrishna. Salutations again and again to Sri Ramakrishna, who is of the form of all gods and goddesses, who is eternal, who is unchanged by circumstance, and whose compassion cannot be measured by any human mind. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you go forward in Mother's loving and protective embrace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. And may you have peace of mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Ma, Jai Thakur.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma.
Hari
Thank you,
Om.
Brother Shankara.
Until, let's see, I guess until Sunday, until tomorrow's class. Tomorrow's class, we have class tomorrow, the Realizing God class at 11 a.m. And then we'll have the Mother's Puja with Aditya serving as our pujari, which will be zoomed from the chapel. And if any of you wish to sing, please do email me about that. Don't text me or chat me or something like that. It's not really a reliable way to reach me. Email me. You can, if you don't have my email address, and I'm sure almost all of you do, but if you just go to the website and you can email me from there. But if you'd like to sing for Mother's Puja, her birthday celebration, celebrating the birthday of this great soul who left us only in 1920. Just think of that. Just 100 years ago, the Mother of the universe was present among us as a human being. So we'll celebrate her birthday with great joy and Aditya's very, very capable worship on Sunday. Jai, 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 Jai. See you again as soon as you decide to Zoom along.
Jai Ma, Hari Om.
Jai Ma, Hari Om.